Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RLAfterShock. Back after a week break due to various distant issues. But we're live once again here, ready to get started. I'm not going to mention that Bacon's massive fuck-up. It's all right. Although I have mentioned Bacon's massive fuck-up.
No, I'm completely fine with it. I thought our show was at 7 o'clock. It was at 5. We planned it. And so I was out. I was actually shopping. And I get a call from Phalius, literally a proper phone call, not like a message on Discord. And he's like, "Where the fuck are you?" I'm like, "I'm shopping. What's wrong?" He's like, "You're meant to be doing Aftershock." I'm like, "No, that's at 7, Phalius. No, it's at 7." He's like, "No, it's right now." I quickly connect to data and go, "Oh shit, yeah."
This is also after we fucking confirmed the small time change, right? 2 days prior, I said, "Can we move the show from 7 to 5 o'clock?" And Bacon was like, "Yeah, sure." Still fucking forgot it, even though he was the dude that signed off on the fucking change.
Yep.
My God. And that completely fucked everything up because we were ready to go, ready to broadcast. And then oh my God. It was stupid. But that was last week. It's fine. Don't worry. We only had so much content. And this week we're going to compile all that content into hopefully what should be a very big show because there is plenty to talk about. RLCS Season 8 has been announced. PSG are out of Rocket League for the moment. And of course, this past gone weekend, we saw the Rocket League Summit with $50,000 given away to, well, that's a spoiler warning for you all. Make sure you tune into the very end of the show. We'll announce all those details. And we'll start, of course, as we always start, with the news. Yes, the big news of the week, RLCS is coming back. Season 8 was announced last week during the what was it, during the middle of the week? Was it the beginning of the week? I think it was the beginning of the week,
Tuesday
actually.
Or Wednesday,
Monday or Tuesday, roughly. Ian took to the stage and announced the brand new RLCS Season 8 season. Obviously, with the returners of EU, NAOCE, and fucking South America. Same old regions and stuff. For the most part, everything is much the same, except for one key difference this time. The Rival Series has seen an expansion of 8 teams to 10 teams this time, with a few more opportunities available for some of the bubble scene teams, especially in Europe, where things could get very fun indeed. I think this is overall a positive change. Bacon has died. Oh, he's back. Hello.
No, it's just my camera. I even heard it like shut off, when you get the Windows sounds. I was just really confused. Now I'm all blue. Like
Oh dear. Well, anyways, the key change this time around is the fact that the Rival Series now has 10 teams in EU and North America, which again is mass opportunity for the EU side of things because we've been begging for expansion for the longest time. And it's not quite expansion that like goes full frontal and expands both tiers of the RLCS, but it is a step in the right direction, I think.
I think this is just pretty much so Psyonix in the sense of it's cautious. We're going to be seeing a lot of transition going through. I'm going to just call it now like 3-4 seasons, Jay, where it's going to be slowly getting up to what the final picture is. So we got 10 teams this time around. Next season, we might see RLRS go up to 12 and then maybe RLCS go up to 10. We don't know too much. But at the moment, with how Rock League is with the whole org issue we have at the moment, which is just orgs dropping out. We know there's a lot of orgs looking to get in, but they're a little bit unsure of how things are at the moment. If Psyonix was just suddenly to go, okay, 10 teams in RLCS, 12 in RLRS, that's a lot of teams and a lot of teams without orgs because naturally you just basically spreading out what's already there, and so it doesn't look as good. So by being nice and relaxed, bring up the RLRS, it's a safe approach to the transition to the bigger system that we all want.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there are some problems with this though. Like in particular, like they've another part of the announcement was that they're removing the play-in broadcast and they're moving straight to a 2-week system on the promotion playoffs, which starts with number 1 an RLRS playoff, and then next week there'll be an actual promotion playoff with the same standard system that we've seen roll around from last time, which I think is a missed opportunity. I feel like it would have been great to see like 4 teams go from the Rival Series to the promotion playoffs to try and challenge those bottom 2 spots and see who can make it in. That also gives an opportunity for further expansion. That way you're feeding up the food chain and seeing, potentially a 10-team expansion for next season. That's a possibility. Instead, what they've gone and done with is they've created a playoffs which decides the 2 teams at the top out of the top 4 making it in. The ceilings also seem very wrong for this, although that being said, it is a bit of a weird one, the way that the system works. I mean, there is like a second life for the first and second seed, but they have to play each other in that first round, which is the problem that we had with the TCS Esports League back last season as well. But I digress. It's a bit of a weird one. It kind of balances out, but it kind of doesn't at the same time. The problem is, once again, that it is one day on one week and another day on a second week, and it does not, it does not address this issue we've had with the promotions for a long time. Is that qualification and requalification and promotion all comes down to on the day performance rather than relying on the consistent performance over the course of a season or over the course of a weekend.
Yeah, what we ideally would want to see is a bit of a change up to the whole system now with. Let's say the top spot, of course, is begging for it, gets an auto qualification. Yeah. Every single tournament worth its salt, near enough, does an auto qualification for league play. And then here we could see, let's just say, second, third, and fourth go through this sort of extra process, sort of playoffs, maybe even throw in fifth into that to try and make it a top half sort of deal, And that would have been a lot cooler. Of course, naturally, I'd also like to see maybe from. Well, not at the moment anyway, with the RLCS. With 8 teams, you couldn't really fit in an auto-demotion spot. But once they do go to 10 teams in RLCS eventually, I would like to see there also being an auto-demotion spot there. Because it is sort of, I would say, needed for a lot of competitive integrity, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah. I mean, last season we had this massive issue with Veloce, and obviously they're going to be in the RLCS next season because of shenanigans. But, at the end of the last season, we saw them... We saw them go 7-0 in the regular season and still not make it to RLCS because they weren't able to perform on the day of the promotion playoffs. And again, it's a situation with this whole thing with the with the playoffs that we have on 2 separate weeks. It's like, well, if in 1 week you do not make a decent run on those playoffs, then your entire season could go straight to shit. Just based off the fact that you lost 2 series essentially. Again, on the day performance, which I think is just a really terrible way to do things. If they did both the playoffs and the promotions within the same weekend, then I don't think I'd have much of a problem with this whatsoever. If they had this format in with the 2 teams from the RLRS qualifying to take on the 2 teams from RLCS, then I'd have no issues with this. Because you have that element of have to prove your worth essentially to the RLCS teams. So those top 2 teams, I think if they played that out on the Friday and the Saturday, for example, then I wouldn't have much of an issue with that at all. Again, I'd much rather have a more robust system that sort of accounts for everybody. The ESL Pro League recently had its relegations last weekend, which I had the chance to do. And we had a really robust 4-day system, 4 days to account for. I can't remember how many fucking teams we had, 6, 7, 8 teams or so. A lot of different squads competing in a relegation phase for a league. And again, it was so robust to the point we had 2 brackets. 2 different brackets of which various teams got eliminated or moved on or moved out of the tournament or relegated and promoted as appropriately. And it's that robust system that makes Pro League such a competitive thing in the landscape of Counter-Strike. That's why so many teams flock towards it versus RLCS, where this is just not robust whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at it now, just trying to make sure that I've got all the information there, because the schedule for the coming season is actually up on the Rocket League Esports website. So you can go over there, rocketleagueesports.com /rules. And the schedule is up already, but it's just tentative because, of course, it could change. They haven't finalized the schedule, but this is just what it is and what all the teams have confirmed too. And like you said, Jay, the fact that the regional playoffs for Rival Series and the promotion tournament is a week apart seems a bit naff, considering that the regional playoffs are just 3 matches, and then, of course, the Rival Series is then 4 matches. Naturally, the promotion, is 4 matches, playoffs is 3. So they could do both on the Friday anyway, both NA, EU, and then do, of course, NA on the Saturday, EU on the Sunday, like normal, and just smash that all into 1 week, and then it would just be... It would flow so much better instead of having to do 2 weekends apart, of course. And 3 games for 1 stream just doesn't seem really worth it for me anyway, with that level of production. It seems like, to me anyway, that they're spending more money than what they need to, which is, again, very un-Psyonix. It's a little odd there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you take a look at Psyonix and the way that they fucking teased this whole thing. I mean, the announcement video feels like it had the entire budget of the last season put behind it, for fuck's sake. You know, like, it's a good video, but, like, why do we need this when we could be putting that money somewhere else, you know? Maybe looking for, maybe looking for some, some more talent opportunities, maybe looking for some more robust systems, maybe adding more budget to the stream so you could have more games within the context of a single day. Maybe you could add more days to the calendar, so that way we're not competing on 1 day per week. I feel like all these things would just improve the RLCS and the RLRS overall. Again, this is the kind of thing that's answered a couple questions. It's given us a couple opportunities and a couple different things to look forward to going forward. But even despite that, there are still some things that need to be worked on going forward for Rocket League.
Good little note as well here, Jay, for you on that point, is that even though we've got 2 more teams into this league play for RLRS, we're still on 5 weeks. We're not going up to a 6th week of games. So it's interesting how they're doing that. I would imagine we're going to get more B-Stream games, which of course naturally for us is cool because we get a chance on that. With Rival most likely redoing it because they did a cracking job last season, so hopefully they're doing it again. Nothing confirmed there, of course, we don't know. But it's nice to see that they're using B streams a little bit more, I would say, because like you're saying, having that midweek, because naturally players having to play, if you were like that, doing them all in one broadcast, doing 3 on the same day or whatever, like we've already got some teams, you can see a little bit of fatigue when they've got to do 2 in the same day, and they've got that weird, awkward hour and a half, 2 hour break in between them. And you can see the effect there. Sometimes it will warm some team up, sometimes it won't. So having more options for those midweek games is quite cool. And of course, naturally, as a Rocket League fan, when I'm there at the moment and it's Tuesday night, there's nothing bloody on Twitch really that I want to watch, and no Rocket League of any sort. It's quite cool to be able to watch that as well because it's there.
Absolutely, it's that opportunity to give more content to the viewer rather than just like cram everything into 3 days and just say, fuck it, there you go, that's the RLCS. It's like, no. Make it robust, make it interesting, make it cool, make it something that people want to tune into. And yeah, that does mean that you'll have to take some time out of the week, but even some of the lowest level competitions we've seen in some other esports, they have midweek broadcast, like one of the common things I often take a look at is the old UK scene and the way we used to run things. Like, it would always be, for League of Legends and Counter-Strike, we'd have Monday and Tuesday evenings, there would be League of Legends, and Wednesday and Thursday, there'd be Counter-Strike, with multiplay and ESL at the time, switching between doing different days. So on Monday, we'd have a Counter-Strike tournament, and Wednesday and Thursday would be the multiplay UK Masters tournament. And this is the UK scene and UK Counter-Strike we're talking about. They ran these tournaments on work days when everyone else has other jobs outside of esports. And this, in theory, massive air quotes there, should be the most professional teams in the world. So why we have to have this weekend system? It's like, well, these guys probably are playing professionally. In a lot of the cases, they are now. Not in the case of Frontline. We'll get to that in a second. There is a level of just sort of like, again, it feels like it's a legacy part of the RLCS that's sort of unnecessarily been held over. Yeah, unnecessarily held over since like the first and second season when things weren't as professional and things weren't as advanced as they were today.
And little problems like this also stems into other issues, such as why subs aren't so prominent in Rocket League. If anything, they're non-existent, aren't they, Jay? So where you're on the weekends, naturally, that's the most the easiest time to make free. But by opening up, Tuesday nights and let's say Thursday nights in this case, you then have to sit in that place of, okay, we actually really do need a sub because, for example, a team that's going to be in the RLRS next season, ARG, they've just signed Monkey Moon, but he can't do Tuesday nights because he's got whatever college course to do that runs late, in that evening. So ARG then have to pick up a sub and actually use that sub instead of just, a free spot to get a RLRS title. We've seen that, and it's a common meme and joke about it. The reason why it is a meme is there is a sort of truth underlying that. It was to the point, wasn't it, last season, RLCS Speed playing from America, and afterwards the Brits called it and said, yeah, we probably should have gotten a sub for that. They learned their problem, and it just seems to be a massive problem of everyone at the moment. It's just they're like, no, we can't use a sub because, again, with Rocket League, how it is chemistry based, it's really hard to replace a member. But if you have that option, and like I said, I really want to see strategy be the next thing to vet within Rocket League, and having a different player who can change up the team's dynamics massively, so that if you've got like 1 week, you're going up against Vitality, for example. If you're the Bricks, you might be using, a lot Cooks and Speed, and then they go up against Dig the following week, and then suddenly they brought in the new fourth. Let's just say Niels Cook gets picked up, because I have no idea where he's going this season, but he's their sub, and it's just, he's a little bit more aggressive or reserved. He wouldn't really be any different to that team as I can see it right now. But I'm just saying, like, it could give them a different opportunity, a different playstyle, which could work, because that strategy is going to be the biggest aspect to changing Rocket League next. Is at the moment, you've got to just improve on consistency teams, and then everyone's going to be on a very, very similar mechanical level. It's been...
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm not really too big a fan of having subs in general. But that's just the stability of Rocket League. I think overall, it is more of a conversation we have to have. But I think that overall, again, the whole weekend only thing is just something that gets really frustrating for. Just for the professionalism of RLCS as a whole. And again, it's, as you say, very slow movement from RLCS, from Psyonix. And I'm kind of getting tired, to be honest, of seeing the small incremental movements, when really we should be making big strides. We should have been making big strides for ages. There was a definitive plan to bring in things like Asia and South America for the past year or so. And earlier this year we had Psyonix employees saying this year a focus of ours is going to be to bring Asia into the fold. We still haven't seen any of that yet. We've seen South America, and we've seen the idea of having expansion in the RLCS, which is only now starting to come to fruition, only now starting to come in at the lower level. And even then, that's only 2 more spots for 2 different regions, by the way. SAM and OCE still don't have RLRS, so that's another issue to bring into account. We've also heard things about EE Studios, for example, that also have had absolutely zero information behind the scenes. We've heard more stuff about trying to expand the operations outside of the RLCS, but even that's also another thing that we haven't heard much of. Again, probably some issues with Epic Games to be involved with that, so I'll give that a little bit of leeway. But in a year where we've had a lot of discussion about fast and rapid growth, and we've had a lot of praise coming through on the subreddits about the way that Rocket League has started to accelerate in its growth rate, I have to say that this is kind of the contrary sort of. This is very much a contrary sort of piece of news when you take a look at all that we've heard over the course of the year.
It's that point. It's basically because we expect it to grow faster. What with the Epic acquisition, so RLRS, the new season coming out, we were expecting a big change. Near enough, Epic comes in, 10-cent money, all that sort of jazz, and just basically slap their big dick on the table and go, "What up, boys? We're now 2 mil, prize pool." That's what people were sort of expecting from this, and we haven't got it. It's understandable. It could be next season that sort of happens, because naturally, when you get plans like this, it's months and months in advance before the acquisition. So, of course, I'm not expecting anything personally until next season. If Asia isn't included next season, then what the fuck is going on? But I wasn't really expecting it now, because, Jay, we were doing the China Open, weren't we? The last, over on the APL channel, we were doing the China Open, and we can say it was on front page of Do You, weren't it? And don't get me wrong, there's just a Rocket League channel at the moment over there. So if you go search Rocket League, it's either going to be transitioning through like Johnny Boy's stream and just basically re-uploading it to there.
Yeah, I know, right? I wonder if they paid for those rights.
Quite illegal, yeah. But we looked on it whilst we were doing the Open, and there was 200,000 people watching Rocket League at that time. So don't get me wrong, it was on front page essentially, but there's an interest in
but that's the thing, though. That's the thing, though, right? That's the thing.
It could be the next big thing, because it's just got picked up by Tencent, and everyone knows.
But that's the thing, though, right? Think of when Rocket League has been on front page international of Twitch, right? How many viewers have we broken? 100, 150, maybe 175,000. And that's for like the World Championships sort of level.
200,000 at the World Championships when in season 5.
We may have done a few seasons ago, right? But that's from that season 5 compared to now, where we're only getting like 150, 175.
Yeah.
I think last season we peaked at 175,000 when it was on front page international Twitch. This is for a shitty $500 tournament, which in the grand scale of things should be nothing. The Chinese viewership gave us 200,000 people. Like, that's a market you can't afford to leave behind in Rocket League. You just can't do it. You can't fucking do it.
I want to say on the Twitch channel itself, only had like at most 150 viewers. Like, it just shows the difference there.
That's the English stream, by the way.
Like I said, yeah. And we are saying that's front page of, the Chinese Twitch, essentially. But there's a whole untapped market there, and that's why I'm saying I reckon it's going to be you're not going to see it yet, because they're going to take half a year to try and funnel it in. And when you look to next season, I wouldn't be surprised if there is just one locked in China spot and one locked in rest of Asia spot, Jay, purely because there's got to be a massive incentive for that market to join in. That's why you're seeing Royal Never Give Up and Edward Gaming try and pick up this new game, purely because they want to get onto that world stage and be the best Asian team there is.
Exactly, absolutely, you're 100% right about that. But for now, we have the expansion that we've had right now. 10 teams now, meaning a total of 8 spots to gain from the play-ins. Because Mouse Sports is, for all intents and purposes, done. So let's just say, unofficially now, it's just a case of just fucking, just waiting for that roster to finally officially confirm that we have our boy a lot over on the bricks. For now, though, we're gonna. I just want to quickly ask before we move on from this topic, the next step in terms of expansion for RLCS. What do we think is the next thing? Because let's impose a couple of rules real quick. Number one, actually no, just one rule. The only rule being is that it's got to be a single thing. Because knowing Psyonix, that's exactly what they're going to do for next season, right? If they do any sort of expansion, they'll do one thing rather than a mass amount of things that need to do to change the system. So if you had to pick one thing, Bacon, what would it be?
I would probably imagine the most likely thing would be RLRS up to 12 teams, I think, is the most likely thing for next season. Like I said, you've got the option of Asia getting 2 spots, for example, coming in. But I think both of those are more likely than RLCS go up to 10 teams at this point in time.
I can see that. I mean, personally, I'd rather stay at 10 teams in the RLRS, but have like another level below. You know how we've talked about having another a third step on the ladder, rather than the stupid play-ins, which again are back for another season. They are once a day-long qualifier for all the best teams that come from the open qualifiers to try their luck. Again, very similar to what we're talking about with the RLRS play-ins and promotions. It's all on the day performance. It's like, again, give us a season where we can decide for certain who will be the fucking, who will be the next few teams to make it into those 4 spots that will be available, and we're all good. Make it a big open league. The open league, give us
the Renegade Cup, but the winners qualify through. That is it, isn't it?
But again, I prefer another league. I prefer an open league. That's the way that I see it. But that's something that I'd look to make in the next installment of the RLCS, or the next installment of the RLCS expansion. But that might not be what Psyonix does. That might not be what you guys at home want to do. So let us know exactly what you would do at RLAfterShock on Twitter, or via the Discord, via the exclamation mark Discord command in the Twitch chat, or in the links of the show notes and video descriptions of every single episode of the podcast. So let's move on and talk about some of the. Actually, not since we are on the point of the next season of the RLCS, and we're talking about who's going to be qualifying for that. We do have to put a bit more of an emphasis on some of the smaller tournaments coming out, especially in Europe where there are so few of them. And one of those tournaments is the Rewind Trials. You insisted we put this in the show today, so I'm gonna leave this all up to you. Talk us through the Rewind Trials, man.
So essentially, this is my little brainchild. I did this back with Rewind before last season, where we just did 3 cups. Just random. Anyone can sign up, of course, and just to test out your teams. Because, like I said, the only weeklies you got at the moment are the esports management ones done by Rocket Brigade. Otherwise, there is nothing else within the EU scene. So I'm coming in. I went to the Rewind lads. Right, this is what I think we need to do for this season. I'm in an hour, and we've been working on this for about a month purely because we didn't know the schedule coming up. Another problem with RLRS and all of that is that it's just basically, right, here it is, 2 weeks' time you're playing to qualify through. So it's a little bit hard to get the times down, but essentially Thursday the 21st, Sunday Thursday the 22nd, this coming Thursday, Sunday the 25th, then it'd be Thursday the 29th and Saturday the 31st, so we didn't want to impact with Christ, what was going on that weekend? It's not Montreal, but whatever. And then finals on the 8th, and essentially it's 4 cups. Anyone can sign up for, qualify through, and 50 quid just literally to the first place team. Just, it's not commiseration money. What am I saying? Just basically thank you for playing. That's where you get something to work for. But the big one is the top 8 teams from those 4 cups go on through to that Sunday for $300 winner takes all, and essentially we're doing like a point system, Jay, which we're trying to mix it up, give a new little opening. So you come first, you get 15 points. Come runner up, you get 10 points. That sort of deal. Semi-finals, you get 6. Quarterfinals, you get 3. And so there's like a little bit of a tiny little mini league system, or not league system, sort of cup system to work through, and just give basically as much opportunity for these RLRS prospective teams to get practice in before the players, because like we said, the play-ins, that's a big shitting day, and a lot of teams aren't ready because they've only played the qualifiers together. So giving a little bit more opportunity for these teams to practice, and we get a little bit of insight for us as casters and analysts. It's actually really hard at the moment when we don't know these teams or how well they're going to do, to the point we've seen it before with RLRS teams come through, like say Baguette squad last season. You're like, where the fuck did they come from? Like, yeah, they might be a good French team with names, but we hadn't seen them play together before, and then they just make it through. Here, hopefully we get a little bit of insight, and it makes life easier for everyone.
Yeah, well, we'll see how easy it will be. Of course, this will also be an opportunity to get yourself seeded for the upcoming qualifiers, so definitely want to get involved in that. Any tournaments you can get involved in, including LAN events like I-65 coming up this weekend, which is a UK-only tournament, so we won't be talking about that in detail. Although we are one team away. If you're a team that's considering going to I-65, we are one team away from making the prize pool £3,000, so please get involved. That would be I think the biggest prize pool we've had since the Sarnic sponsorship of I-60. So you definitely want to get involved in that if you're a UK player who wants to get a chance to play in a tournament, potentially play on that big stage, and maybe meet us, because me and Bacon are going to be there casting the damn thing. So it certainly would be worthwhile for you. But again, the V1 Trials, I-65, any other tournaments going on, sign up, get involved, and make sure that you are competing in the Rocket League esports space. Let's move on and talk about PSG. I mentioned at the top of the show that they are out of Rocket League. They say with great sadness on Twitter, with great sadness, our most successful team today is leaving. Thank you for everything, Farah, Shawset, and Fruity. We wish you all the best luck for the future. And in a very fanatic move, they've turned around and said, we're not done with Rocket League yet, though. Stay tuned soon. Which, again, if you remember, is pretty much exactly what Fnatic said when they dropped their roster back a fair little hot minute ago. I'm kind of surprised, actually, that they dropped... Oh, wait, no. From the outside perspective, I am surprised that PSG followed through and dropped their roster, because Fruity was talking a little bit at the Valencia LAN when we were there, and he was mentioning that they've already paid for our ticket for this LAN, so but we're not going to be representing them afterwards. So I heard from him, and I heard from behind the scenes and little talk. I wasn't going to say anything until this was actually official yet. But after the Valencia performance, I am kind of stunned they didn't go ahead and say let's re-sign this team. To be honest, I honestly thought that after the Valencia victory, PSG would have tried to renegotiate a new contract with these guys.
So from what I know, it was essentially PSG not wanting to pay the money that the players were asking for, because naturally there's that level. We were talking about this before, weren't we, Joe? Of essentially, players want to be paid as much as what their rivals are getting paid, and that's understandable.
It doesn't work like that.
It don't work like that, guys. But apparently, from rumours and lads, they are in talks with other orgs at the moment, and hopefully should be signed up after Montreal. But for Montreal and that, you got to think this is 2 months without salary, that these lads are going on. Like, if this was any other job, you would be struggling to pay rent. Like, there's got to be... I can understand why they were leaving the contract, because naturally, otherwise they would have to break contracts. So by them doing their results at the moment, they've got to be one of the hot teams to pick up, a bit like we were thinking about the Bricks. So they're hedging their bets, and this is a risk they're taking. But
yeah. I mean, I'm kind of glad that, honestly, the prize money that they're receiving as of late has been pretty decent and sizable. Obviously, they've got 50 grand at Valencia. I don't know what the prize pool split for Summit was, but it's about $50,000 prize pool total. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure specifically how much they're getting, but they placed pretty highly without spoiling it. They placed pretty highly.
But beyond the Summit, you just got a question like how much money was split up into different things in the crew battles.
Yeah.
Rock paper scissors. The winner of rock paper scissors actually gets $25K, Wow, that's a weird
Fuck
split,
that,
right?
mate. If that's the case,
Mafia.
if that's the case, I'm gonna storm down that fucking house and say, "What the hell are you lot smoking?" But yes,
You may
obviously
do
then-
that. I'm going to start picking up the esport, the hot new esport of rock paper scissors. You know, in my spare time, just there going, just they're all day
Mate,
long.
there's a fantastic video. There's a fantastic video online in Japan of these two girls going at a rock paper scissors, and it's like they go rock paper scissors. They chant the thing down, and the winner just like starts breaking down in tears because it's like an arena event. There's like 10,000 people watching. Rock paper scissors, boys. Like what the fuck? I know I shouldn't say anything because obviously in esports people question why people from outside the esports world want to question how we enjoy this stuff. So I haven't got much ground to stand on, but it is quite entertaining actually how different cultures can really be.
I love it. I've seen a similar thing with Uno, and I'm just there like, yes.
Oh man, I like you can make anything a sport. It's fantastic. But anyways, back on PSG. And obviously frontline, as they mentioned now. Let's talk about the frontline roster. You say that there's a good chance they might get signed. They may be, they may not be. I'm not really 100% certain. But for these guys, there's lots of there's a lot of success on that lineup, and especially after this weekend, it doesn't feel like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. So I think they're still going to hold their place in the Rocket League scene. They've got Montreal coming up. They don't have to pay their way with a ticket. They already qualified for that particular spot with their own qualifier run. So I think that it's more of a setback for the organization than it is for the team.
Yeah, because the org now is going to have to. I'm going to say it. They probably won't pick up an RLCS team unless an RLCS team is happy to go with what I would assume is probably a team that's happy to go for like a 4K a month contract, because that's roughly where it's estimated PSG were on. Compared to your Vitality, they're on 10K. That's a big difference, of course. Money, and of course, I wouldn't say it's greedy, but it's just that mindset of, I'm doing better than this team, thus I should be on more money. Again, don't really work with that. But I could see them picking up an RS team, someone like ARG that has got a good fan following, and they can pick them up for essentially cheap as chips in comparison to the RLCS. And if they do hope with, the Epic buyout, there's going to be more tournaments going on, it could be viable for them. That, for me, would make a lot of sense as a move, Jay?
Yeah, I mean it could well do, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how the cards fall. Again, PSG for now out of Rocket League, depending on whether they want to, return, Circle Fnatic. Then we'll see whether they can actually do so. But for now, we just have to leave it there on the PSG front of things. Frontline are still competing. They're going to be at DreamHack Montreal next, so definitely want to be keeping your eyes on that one. We'll talk about Montreal in a second. But for now, we're going to go to a smaller story that kind of broke out during the week, and it made the front page of the subreddit for reasons I have no fucking idea why. But our good friend Banana Man, I love the guy, absolutely fantastic streamer. Leo's also great. Exactly. Me and Leo have been meaning to, because we both live in London. Me and Leo have been looking to go to Face Down, which is essentially like a pop punk emo and metal sort of a club night in the city. And we've been back and forth about it for a little bit. We actually need to go at some point, but it's fantastic. Banana hasn't been on a professional team for a while. I think G-Finity Elite Series was his last outing with a sub. He was competing in the Belong Arena Clash that me and you have been covering, Bacon. But other than that, he's been working on his streaming career, which has been going fantastic. But after the RLRS announcement, he tweeted out that he's going to be teaming with B-Peak, Wrong Way Woody as the sub and coach, another big sort of veteran in the in the scene, and Marky Dudar of all people. Marky's back. I'm not gonna lie, Bacon. Right, this is here's the main reason why this whole thing sort of kicked up and made and got as much noise as it did. And while there is a certain level of personal involvement with these players and with one in particular, we have to take an objective look at this squad. With the incredible depth of Europe, Bacon, do we see B-Peak, Marky Dudar, and Banana making a run to the... You're shaking your head already.
Bob, I haven't even... I'm sorry, lads. I love you. You're good, but EU's too stacked. Even with 8 spots, it would have to be one hell of a day for them to be able to get a spot at the moment. And again, that's the problem. When you look at this right now, you've got GC's tournament winners, legends in, Marky Dudar, and you're just there like... Yeah, they've got no chance in hell at this, really.
Well, it's like the thing with
that
Marky.
makes me sad, but really happy at the same time in the weirdest, most melancholy sense, Jay.
Yeah, the thing about it, right, is that Marky has already stated that he's not interested in the grind anymore. You know, he went on Twitch, excuse me, and he said, I can't do it anymore. I can't keep up with the competitive landscape. It's just not a thing for him anymore. So that's the main issue, I think. Honestly, I think that Banana and BP could make a decent run in the qualifiers. I don't think they'd go far, but Marky's not the third to have at the moment. You know, he's not been in a professional team since XL. Since XL, that's like almost
that roster.
Yeah, and you know, he was the weakest player for XL when they picked up Breezy. They fucking flew out of the gate and absolutely, you know, just destroyed everybody. And Marky very clearly towards the end of his tenure in competitive Rocket League was just not with it. You know, again, you know, I love the guys on this team. You know, I've got nothing but love for every single one personally. But why I just made the front page of the subreddit, like, I really don't know. It feels like it's just down to name value alone.
It is the Marky name. That is just it, really. I guess at the same time, name value-wise, we'll let Banana because he's a good lad and, you know, the community does like him, like the other players and that, which has a big value on the Reddit as such. But, yeah, it is just... This was a weird one to see on the front page. Like, I saw him on my Twitter first, of course, and I was like, oh, that's nice, like. And then just seeing him blow up on
me
Reddit,
too as well,
like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. That's weird that everyone's commenting on this.
I wonder, do you think they might be competing at the I-65 LAN?
I haven't seen Marky there. I would imagine he couldn't be bothered to go down, to be quite honest. So
It might well be.
No, I'll have a little look whilst you go on to the next topic and that, and
all right.
quickly.
I'll let you do your research as we move on from Marky's return, because DreamHack Montreal is just around the corner at this stage. It's coming very, very close. We're all getting ready and getting hyped to start covering the tournament here on Aftershock. And just earlier this week, they announced their team listing for who's going to be there. And a lot of the regular names you would expect. You know, for the most part, it is pretty standard. There are a couple of things that to note, of course, throughout the course of the thing. Just a quick scrimmage of the roster lineups got me noticing a couple of things. Obviously, number one is 1NE are coming. They're the first team from Asia to compete in an international event. I think a lot of people, especially the Asian supporters like me and you, are Bacon. We want to see this team do some really good shit because they have been looking fucking hot, like white hot barbecue level of these guys could actually do some damage.
I just love that barbecue level. Yeah, they could grill their competition. We'll see. The problem is, Jay, like looking at rosters, because of course EU's making a lot of run across. It's a long shot because I'd imagine they're probably seeded quite low. But I just hope whoever's doing the seeding, please give them just an inkling of hope, because against the bubble scene of America, they could do quite well. I'm going to say there is a glimmer of hope they can make it into day 2. Like, we just know with the whole structure of how naturally the DreamHack system is, like, the invite team should already go into day 2, so that it's a lot easier for the teams from day 1 to make it through. But that's the next season improvement, and that makes sense anyway, because you got the first year out the way. This is the final one, but there is a glimmer of hope they could make it through to the second day. We know the team is weaker, what with Misty stepping in for Shalom, but after the second tournament running with Misty, you can see this is a team that is improving mighty fine.
Yeah. The other thing I also want to mention as well is the fact that Miztic is maybe the second player to move from Europe to North America. He's playing with Karma and Jay Wismont in the X-Splice camp. Poor dude with the nose, man. I've been giving him so much shit these past couple of months for his relegation, and now he's actually off the team. So I kind of feel a little bit bad about it. Yeah, Mystic playing with Karma and Jay Wiz. It's a bit of a weird one, actually, because we saw him playing with them online, and they weren't having amazing results, but that was also online where he's playing from Europe. So, what's the damage here?
Shadow's already confirmed on their roster for next season, because lock-in's already gone and passed for the teams. So this is just a one-and-done sort of case, and more like, oh, let's get in a player that can come along, and they picked Mystic for whatever reason. I honestly don't know. I'm confused by this as much as anyone else, but I'd be interested to see how this plays, because of course this was a team that was very middling, you know, with a drop down. They were dependent on day against a lot of the bubble scenes in America, absolutely blow them out of the water, half-arsing it, but Mystic stepping in for Dubin knows, and Mystic's one of those players that's dropping off the RLCS level. It's can't even find an RLRS team to qualify for himself. Hence why he's subbing for Veloce this coming season.
We're going to get onto that in a second,
Yeah. This will be an interesting one, just see how they do. Because if they get into day 2, that should probably be I don't want to say the expectation, but what they're going for anyway, a team this level over on the Montreal circuit. If they go any further than that, like, can take a game in day 2, this would be quite interesting to see how this team forms up. Because this is going to be a very slow playing team. And that's going to be weird for a lot of other teams to go up against at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm curious more than anything else, I think, for these guys. I'm not really sure where to rank them in terms of the overall thing, because there are 32 teams here. So to go through this entire list and start fucking, like, trying to put one team above the other is really not worth it, especially when we don't even know the group stages either, so we haven't got that context with us. That's the only piece of information we're waiting on for Montreal.
I mean, at the same time, you look at some of these teams, like, of course, we know some of the teams that come through open sign-ups, such as, from solo mid to the peeps to the dudes and that. But if I go, for example, the monkey business and just go, who on earth is Joe Yang? Never heard of this bloke. Read the Zephyr. No idea who that is. So that's just the beauty of an open tournament, is that I have no idea. Dark Allegiance, who on earth is Waxy and Corrosive? No idea there. But I like that mixture. Just sign up, because it's a LAN event itself anyway, ain't it, with DreamHack. So they're just players that are going along more to play for the fun and the chance to meet these bigger teams. They've probably got their, autograph books and that out ready for it. It's quite cool. I like the mixture.
And of course, one team is missing from this lineup, this roster that from this overall sort of like list, which we decided via the World Gaming Network North American Championships, which are going down, I believe, this weekend as well. So clash directly with Insomnia, the pricks. I'm kidding, guys. I love you. Again. Yeah, we've got one more team to decide. Other than that, we've got most of the main representation.
We don't have much to talk about other than we like the casting lineup. That is it.
We don't even know most of the teams other than like Plot Twist and Upper 90. So that's about it. Again, that's our North American, North American bubble scene, RLRS scene level talent completely fucking wasted away. So there you go. We'll be waiting on those results again for this weekend, and we'll be waiting for the group stage, of course, for Montreal to be announced, and then from there we'll have all the pieces in place for DreamHack Montreal, which of course is coming up on September the 6th through the 8th. It's just around the corner, only 3 weeks away, 2 weeks, 2 and a bit weeks, I guess you could say, on Monday. So roughly about 3 weeks. So we'll be keeping your eyes locked to all that information, and of course keeping your eyes to the tournament, where we'll be bringing you all the action and all the coverage here on RLAfterShock. So let's move on to our final piece of news, talking about Mystic on the DreamHack Montreal team list, and he's also been announced as the wonder sub of Veloce, who finally have confirmed that Casio is going to be joining Flame and Freaky as the final third from the Triple Trouble side. Now there with Veloce. I mean, it was rumored for weeks. We knew about it. It was basically just waiting to be announced, and it's been officiated at this point. So there you go.
This is actually a really good roster. Of course, we know the power that Flame, Casio, and Freaky can do. Don't get me wrong, looking at them this season, they are probably going to be bottom 2. But Mystic joining in just gives them a little bit of opportunity. Mystic knows the game inside out, and I'm hoping he's going to pick up a little bit more of a coaching role to his team, Jay. But also that point of having a sub that's actually worth their salt in is, like we said, they're middling. An RLRS player, definitely, but he's got the experience in the RLCS. For him, I could expect them to need to pull him for a sub this season, and there would be no problem with that. So this is actually a pretty solid team, and I look forward to see if they can do an upset or two. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, could well be, to be honest. Obviously, we're going to get to see these guys compete in the RLCS in the coming season, so we're just going to be waiting on seeing how far they can really go with it, obviously, with their promotion playoffs being placed in that third position. Ranking them against some of the other teams from the RLCS is going to be a bit difficult as well, because obviously we've got Complexity moving up in the ranks, and they've been looking really good. TSM just picked up Alpha, and that's fucking scary. FC Barcelona having Ronicky in their particular lineup. The Bricks about to confirm a lot, who they've been looking good, even though they went out in last place at the recent LAN. Small spoiler for you. Dignitas also looking in pretty top form. Frontline being, one of the best teams in the world right now. Like, I think Europe is looking pretty stacked, all things considered, at the moment. So Veloce are going to have a pretty hard time trying to break into that particular scene, which, again, sucks, considering they've been at the top end of the RLRS for ages, and now they've had to get clapped in Season 8. So, feels bad on that front, I think, Bacon.
The thing is, we expect them to get clapped, and it is horrible saying it like that, because if they don't get bottom 2, they've done fantastic the coming season, but that is because it is so stacked. And I'm hoping they can break out the bottom 2. It's like the same as what we were thinking with Mouse Sports before, where it's just, we want you to do so well because we want the upsets, and you're great lads. They've earned it to get here. It didn't come by, they didn't want to earn the spot into RLCS that way, but they do, no doubt, deserve to be there in this case.
Yeah, no, they do. They absolutely do. They deserve to be there for the past season. So, there's no fucking debate about that from me. The question now, of course, turns to the future, really, for Veloce. So let's see how well they can do with their new man in Cassio and their Wonder Sub Mystic now playing for the Veloce side. It sucks also that they're not going to be at Montreal either. I don't think the team could afford to pay them to send them out, which I think they really should do, to be honest. They're now a pretty top team. I think they're the only top team from Europe that won't be attending. So, yeah. Right, that's going to be it for the news. That's going to be it for the news this week. Quite a little bit of action going down, actually, Bacon. I mean, to be fair, it has been the news for the past 2 weeks, obviously. So, we'll leave it at that, to be honest. A lot of interesting stuff happening in the Rocket League scene, though. And I think there might be even some more news just around the corner as well. So you definitely want to keep it locked to RLAfterShock. Again, the Twitter at RLAfterShock and the Twitch at twitch.tv/RLAfterShock if you're listening to the recorded versions via YouTube and Spotify and Google Podcasts and iTunes and whatever platform you're using to listen to right now. So yeah, let's move on to the tournament roundup, Bacon. You are looking a bit frustrated there for a moment. What's going on?
Sorry, I'm trying to do a thing on PC. It's Google Drive. It's been a massive pain in the bloody arse recently and just does not want to work. I'll open a Google Doc. At the moment, the problem is the Aftershock, what me and Jay are reading off, and it just freezes. It's everything to do with Drive at the moment. It's a great product. Drive
has not been a very fun time. If you want, I can send you some quick screenshots for the moving up on the show document.
It's fine. It will load. It will just take 2 minutes.
I mean, I can walk us through the talking points if you want to just take a look at the visuals through Wikipedia. I know that Lucas also wants us to mention the world record set by the Rocket League scene, which is only sort of semi-relevant. I mean, we did break the record for the longest talk show, but it wasn't Aftershock, so therefore your competitors, therefore fuck you. So there you go. That's what I'm gonna leave at that for the news.
The thing was as well, we were going to do a show on there, like an Aftershock show on there, and we just could not find an hour and a half, 2 hour slot.
Next year,
work.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Next year,
when we go for 200 hours next year, that's it, Lucas.
200 hours next year, and we'll have
meant to announce that yet?
200 hours next year, and we'll have at least 2 segments of Aftershock throughout the course of that. So there you go. Right. Wow. No, I'm still coughing, man. I'm still fucking sick. That's going to make insomnia this weekend very good.
It's loaded, finally.
There we go. That means we can talk about the Beyond the Summit event that went down yesterday. Well, the weekend, obviously. The finals were yesterday with a lot of big names out here. Of course, we are moving into spoiler territory, so if you have not seen the tournament yet and you do not want to be spoiled on the results, then turn away and don't watch or don't listen and come back here when you're done. We're not going anywhere, especially if you listen to the recorded version. So let's get down and dirty and start talking about Beyond the Summit. We'll start off with the format of the show overall, because it was a very different style of event, a very different. A very different way of broadcasting, especially, because the way that Beyond the Summit worked, we've mentioned it a couple of times in the past, is it's a very gold rush style of event where it's just like people sitting on a couch chatting shit about Rocket League, and there was a little bit of professional play-by-play, but all in all, it was just essentially the pros and the analysts just chatting smack and back to each other and talking about what they're seeing on screen. So it wasn't a massive, it wasn't like a massive professional thing that we've seen in Rocket League in the past. Certainly a unique thing. Certainly something that I've seen mixed reactions about. I know people that loved it. I know people that hated it. Personally, I've always liked Beyond the Summit, so I absolutely loved the way that they did this stream.
Yeah, I loved it as well. My only problem we were talking about is it wasn't committed to either way. Like you were saying, talking smack about players, they didn't go enough smack in there. It was just more little banter in that, and that just feels like it's more the Sonics overhead.
Yeah.
You don't be negative, all of that, and that's just how it seems. The only other problem,
which is a bad thing for this show, isn't it? Yeah,
never getting hired there. But the only other problem, we talked about it a little bit, was that there was lots of jokey bits, and then other times they were trying to be epic, and it was like a weird little contrast. Like the opening video where they're like, it's building up epic. You're like, oh shit, this should be like, this was better than what you see at RLCS for their build up. And then they just come into the lads on the couch like, oh, hey there, how's it going?
Yeah,
this is Beyond the Summit. And you're just there like, I would have much liked it, like we said, if when you rock, paper, scissors come out, it builds up epic, and then suddenly it goes rock, paper, scissors, and then just does jokey little bits and like little highlights from all the shows like all those little clips they were doing coming up. That would have been much better. But it was there like, I loved it. Don't get me wrong, it was a great event, probably one of my favorite Rocket League events to come so far, purely because I like that informal sort of format to it. But it just seems like they were a little unsure of what they want. There might have been a bit of a clash between creative minds.
Yeah, and again, I think it's more of like more of a clash between the way that Beyond the Summit want to run their event and the way the Sonics want to run their event. Because if it was Beyond the Summit that had full control over this, then it would have been like, it would have been like a Counter-Strike Summit. And if you've seen the Counter-Strike Summit, they just go ham, right? They just get Thorin and say, right, unplugged, unfiltered, say whatever you want, and Thorin will just smash the. It's great content.
I want
fantastic
that.
Content.
Sonics, let us be people. That
yes,
I
think honestly you could inject so much personality if you just said to the players, right, you can say whatever you want on Beyond the Summit. And here's the thing, right, no one's going to take it seriously anyway, right? No one's going to be paying much mind to this event. Like, I know a lot of people, I know that this tournament got like the lowest viewership out of any Rocket League major this year so far, like 20, 30, 50,000 viewers watching the grand finals, around about that 20 to 50,000 area where the most dedicated fans are watching. And some of the stuff the players were saying was genuinely fantastic. It's just that case of it just could have gone a little bit further, just that slight extra push past the edge of it. And honestly, I think that a lot of the personalities were able to shine through as a result of the format, but only so much,
In that case, and I will extend on it, it felt almost like it was better when the players were on the couch rather than the casters, purely because the players weren't, it almost felt like the players weren't told to control themselves.
Yes.
And the players were just able to go, oh, Ham, you even saw it sometimes when the whole case of before a lot came on, he had to get all his shits and fucks out and all of that sort of thing.
Oh,
so
my
he
God,
wouldn't say it on screen. That was funny. That's what we want. And
a lot. I have to say, a lot was probably the most entertaining part of the whole broadcast. Like the shit, like he not only was he delivering like great analysis to the matches, like he was doing it in an entertaining fashion. Like he has got like a natural knack for analysis. Honestly, like now that I've seen him, like if he ever has an issue in his career, if he ever wants to transition away from being a player, he could slot into an analysis role fucking easily. Easily. He's so good, man. And again, a lot probably is my standout guy. We had a lot of praise for the analysis team, or the casting team. We obviously talked about the fact that Johnny Boy was a part of this, and CJ was also being a part of this. CJ's also in the same vein as a lot when it comes to talent. So it was just. Like, again, it allowed so much for the players to shine through. But if they let us, like, if they brought on the casting talent and, like, just gave them the same sort of level of, like, don't control yourself, then I think so much personality could have shined through. Wouldn't it have been great? Wouldn't it have been great if Johnny Boy just cynically smashed the shit out of a player or of a team or of some sort of random factor about Rocket League? That would have been amazing. That would have been truly amazing and fantastic content for Beyond the Summit. That's what they thrive on doing, That's what they thrive on doing. Not taking themselves too seriously, not doing the buttoned up shirt shit that we see in every other esports tournament, and a lot of the side content activation things as well worked because of that, because they weren't trying to be super serious and super, massive value. They did fucking Mafia. They did a game of Mafia on stream. Well, that's like shit that we used to play at the schoolyard, like, or like in the classroom, like stupid stuff like that. And it was genuinely funny and entertaining. If only they just let that extend to the commentary, I think we would have had something really special with Beyond the Summit,
Definitely, and like we were saying, it felt like to that point, Gold Rush was better for commentary because there was no sort of like limit for them. Here, absolutely. Where they did definitely feel it, like the best commentary for the entire event was in the crew battles for the 1v1s, purely because Johnny Boy just then went and solo commentated the entirety of it. No one else could get a word in. But it's purely because it flowed and he knows how to solo commentate in those scenarios.
Yeah.
The rest of it was very much... Yeah, the rest of it was very much... No one really sure of how to commentate. Like, you always had James Bott go into his normal, very hardcore sort of style, and it didn't work. And it felt very weird that it's like, and Turbo's got it in the air, and then suddenly CJ's just there like, he should have really got a better shot than that.
It's the kind of thing, right? It's the kind of thing. It's the kind of thing where I feel like if they brought on like some of the European guys, I'm not to toot our own horns, but imagine if they treated it like AfterShock.
Oh no, Shogun should have been there.
Yeah,
if Johnny's there, Shogun would.
Imagine if Shogun was there. Honestly, like the banter that those two would have been fantastic. And not to toot our own horns, but imagine if they treated it like AfterShock, for example. Again, where you could it's very unfiltered, very sort of like unplugged level of content essentially. I think that would have been. I genuinely believe that would have been the best route to go down. And again, imagine if it was one of our like roundtable discussion shows where we have where we oftentimes bring guests on to do and breakdowns of the RLCS and doing prediction shows and shit. Like, imagine if we did it a lot like that. Then honestly, do you know what? Like, I'm half tempted just to do a fucking UK edition of Beyond the Summit and just do it on AfterShock. That would be fun. Fuck it. I'm gonna contact James. I'm gonna get Gold Rush back, and we're gonna do like a charity drive on AfterShock. There you go. That's my new fucking plan, right? I have no resources to do it with, but we'll do our best.
I'm just gonna get the entirety of Rewinder UK anyway, so we can run it. Like we did. I'm just saying we can do an AfterShock LAN. Like it is incredibly possible.
Are you serious, Bacon?
Like I'm saying, like sorry, a small
Bacon. You do realise that by saying this, I'm actually going to pull you aside after the show, and we're going to discuss this in detail, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right then. Well, there you go. Teaser for upcoming content.
We've already looked at even broadcast locations and that. Between Rewind and Rival, we know how to do it. We just need sponsors, which is your job now.
Why my job? What the fuck have I done? Have I got any business talent? Are you kidding me?
You made it verbal.
All right, fine, fuck it. We'll discuss this in more detail after the show's done. For now, let's move on and talk about the actual format of the tournament, because Beyond the Summit had like a very unique format as well. For those of you who don't know how it worked, it was 8 teams, 4-team double elimination GSL group stage, best group stage in the fucking world, with 6 teams making it through to a double elimination.
Can we just say that now?
Yes. This should have been the World Championship format, right? This would have been fucking perfect for the World Championship format. Of course, the only issue being I have to fit in 2 more teams because of the, or 4 more teams because of the World Championships, because of the thing. That being said, though, even then, the way that they did it with this one is that it was 6 teams going forward rather than 4 teams going forward, like most other GSL group stages work. With the only difference being that the bottom 2 the second from the bottom of the group stage go into the lower bracket, whereas the top 2 the top 4, I should say, go into the upper bracket of the playoffs, which of course was the double elimination playoffs. This is the most robust system we have had in Rocket League ever. Like, with the exception maybe of the E-League Cup, but that's like down to debate points. Even then, we still have a double elimination format in the playoffs, for fuck's sake. So even then, I'd say personally that E-League got trumped by Beyond the Summit. So imagine having a casual event that still has a better format than the World Championships. Holy fuck. That's incredible. And honestly, do you know what? This would be my go-to format for any future major event in Rocket League. Even in the case of DreamHack, where it's 32 teams, like if they wanted to run like a DreamHack Open style event where it's like 8 teams, do it like this, and honestly, you'd have like a fantastic time, I think.
Yeah, job done. I can't add any more because it's so true. The GSL system works so much better. I like having that 3rd team come through in the lower bracket because I do like it moving on to a double bracket run, and then you having that sort of redemption, but you've got to start from the lower bracket. For me, that is what I love to see in tournaments because it still enables that lower bracket run, like what fucking Dignitas did. That's all the spoilers you're going to get for now. But that gives so much story to it, Jay. And like you're saying, I don't know how you would add in a 3rd group, for an example, but like in the world scenario, because that would then make it a bit convoluted and a little bit messy. But here in this situation, it was perfect, and the tournament ran really well. apart from I'd say the first day felt like every team was just basically quite crap, and that was just it. But that's not under the BTS like control, is it?
I mean, sort of, yes, no. I mean, it's more down to the quality of the teams themselves. But like personally, I think that for the most part, everything just kind of ran pretty smoothly on the game side of things. And again, the format was just absolutely perfect. I got no criticisms for it. It's probably one of the best parts about the event.
I can knock is scheduling for it, because the finals of the actual main bracket tournament on the Sunday finished at, what was it, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning? It was super late for normal people. That's my only problem I've got with the entire team.
Well, that's North American lands, isn't it? You know, you got to kind of live with that at certain
points.
It's
hosted on the East Coast, but they were using West Coast times. It was very weird.
Well, I mean, again, can't win them all. I'm fine, to be honest, with it, because like I didn't sleep last night anyway, so it's all good. So it's all fine. So let's talk about some of those results. Talk about the group stages, the playoffs, where things ran. We're only going to go through the main tournament. We're not going to talk about the rock paper scissors shit. You know, as much as we'd love to give it for the memes, like this is all about the Rocket League esports stuff. So we're just going to go.
Not about the crew battles.
Not the crew battles.
Oh, they have actually shown the money for the crew battles and the stuff like that. Okay. That's an interesting one. Rock, paper, scissors did have money as well.
Really? Oh my fucking god!
33 cents to everyone on Rogue because they won, of course. And then just quickly saying, the All-Star players got
$500
a piece. Yeah, it's just weird. And then the crew team that won got $291.67. So someone quickly do the maths in the background and find out how much actually went to the main tournament, because I would pretty much imagine that 50,000 is split across everything in the Psyonix way of how they do things.
Well, we're not going to be focusing on those tournaments, those little side bits. We're going to be talking about the main tournament, obviously, with the GSL system and the double elimination format. So we'll start with the group stages. In Group A, we had G2 and NRG making it up at the top 2 end, a double North American header, with Dignitas making it in third and Renault Vitality out 0-2 in last place of the group. That's going to be a fucking yikes for me. Meanwhile, over on that I was going to say B-bomb site. I've been casting too much Counter-Strike this weekend, Baker, man. I don't know what I'm doing. But over in Group B, it's Cloud9 and Frontline making it out in the top 2 positions. Cloud9 above Frontline, actually. Frontline actually lost in the winners match to Cloud9 in particular. And in the third place position, it was Rogue and then the Bricks, who dropped out in the fourth and final position. Moving on to those double elimination brackets, G2 and Frontline took each other on in that first round matchup where Frontline won in a very close 4-3 fashion. Moved on to face NRG, who swept Cloud9 out of the upper bracket and into the winners finals, where NRG 4-1 Frontline to get the series advantage in the grand finals. Then in the losers bracket, Dignitas eliminated G2 in the last place. Cloud9 eliminated Rogue in 4-3. So very, very close series for them. And then those two teams took each other on, with Dignitas 4-3'd Cloud9 as well, in a quite surprising fashion as well. Before they moved on to the losers finals, where Frontline swept them out. And then a close series against NRG, but in the end was not to be. No bracket reset, and NRG were able to claim the grand finals and claim the trophy for the Beyond the Summit. By the way, fantastic trophy. It's a fucking duck with a Rocket League ball in it. It was great.
Yeah, I love that.
It was great. So there you go. Those are your full breakdown of results. Let's talk about some of the storylines. And I want to start with Vitality, because we seem to be going in a bit of a cycle for this team. It was before their big run, before they were the best team in the world. They were in the Gfinity Elite Series, and week after week they were disappointing, and in the RLCS they were disappointing, and here they have disappointed harder than I think they've ever have before. Completely just dead last, and with the same issues we saw in the World Championship. Vitality's defense fucking let down. Absolute letdown from these guys. Like, this was just not... It was fantastic because some of the striking plays that they had was great, but when it came to when they had to get in the backline and defend, nothing. Absolutely no defense to show for.
Yeah, so by Worlds, by the way, we mean days 1 and 2, really, where they just scraped in. Day 3, Vitality were nuts. But again, that problem at Valencia was very evident. Vitality having some games where they're incredible and other games where they just couldn't work out left from right. And here, one game across the 2 days, across the 2 games might we add as well, because naturally the system went. But one game out of 2 best of 7s we've got to add as well here, Jay. just what the fuck? Like, we were talking to Gregan at Valencia, and he made the very bold statement, at the moment, we're the best team. We just, got to play
Questioning that
our
one
game.
right now.
We just got to play our game. At the moment, it seems like they don't even know what their game is. They think they're playing Rainbow Six or something, because this is disastrous form. Don't get me wrong, against NRG, it was very close. 3 overtimes, and I think it was crazy on that numbers. But against Dig, on that opener, Dig's a team they must scrim continuously.
That's
and
the thing, right?
They could not do crap to them.
That's the thing, right? Dignitas was a team that we came in and said this is probably the weakest team of the whole group. That's what we were saying. Like, it was a stacked group except for Dignitas is what we were saying. And Dignitas are able to beat the fucking world champions, for fuck's sake. That should have been unacceptable. And although, Dignitas did have a decent run in the end, I still think that Reno Vitality was more than the fact that they dropped the ball in that particular matchup. And we'll talk more about detail about Dignitas later. Like, Vitality themselves just seem like they've gone from one extreme to the other, being the definitively best team in the world, the best team in the European RLCS, to now just being a very, very substandard sort of squad.
The problem there is, if they're playing on their day, Jay, they have the best defense in the world. Like, their way to pass out is incredible. No other team can touch it. But if it's not their day, they're not feeling that game. They have the worst fucking defense in the world. So how would you just completely drop the ball on that, It just makes no sense. I don't know what is going on in that camp, because it's not looking to be like a team morale problem. The team seems to quite like each other. So what on earth is going on for them not to just connect up consistently? It's a problem that's undescribable.
What I'm gonna do at some point later this week, or next week when I get the chance to, when the demos get released beyond the summit, if they do get released at all, I do want to pick up some of those demos, and especially the first series for Vitality and Dig, because like the Vitality defense just it's now become a really big sticking point for them right now. Again, they are great when they get on the offensive. K-Dop and Fairy Peak have studded the fantastic French connection. Scrub Killer has started to fall behind on the defensive though. Like, when he looks good, he looks great, but I think he needs a bit more in terms of backup for Vitality to get back in the back line and of course to defend that back line overall. Again, I want to take a look at more specifics and watch that Vitality defense and compare it to the likes of the frontline defense, which was fantastic earlier this week as well. Again, go watch the overtime in the grand finals to see what I'm talking about. And Reno Vitality need to start taking some notes from some of the other squads, because right now, like, again, it's the only issue is the defense, but it's such a crippling issue that it's causing them to have results like this. Again, this is the current world champions we're talking about. 2 months ago, we were looking at them in the EU RLCS saying they're the next fucking Dignitas. And much like the next fucking Dignitas, they're crashing and burning hardcore. And before even the timeline of Dignitas has run up, I might add, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we look at that, and consistency is just basically the entire problem in Rocket League at the moment, and Reno Vitality are the worst case of consistency. The best example of it is the change for Frontline, the XPSG roster, in just how, where they've got a lot more consistent. I'm going to say now that the largest part to that as well is a lot of consistency on Ferrer's behalf. He has really picked up his game in the last couple of months. And Frontline has gone from a middle RLCS team to one of the best, if not the best, in Europe at the moment. And it is just consistency, being able to come in. Don't get me wrong, they had that. They dropped to NRG in the winners bracket. It was a super close. It was a fairly close series. It was up and down all over the place. But NRG on that last day were just crazy as such, and we'll get on to that in a little bit. But Vitality, Greg, and you got to get those lads just talking to each other and figuring it out, because way too often are they caught up in attack, aren't they, Jay? They're just downfield and no one's home. That is a rule one issue. You cannot have that. Like, when you're building a team together, communicating, you should know who is back, and they seem to not have that.
Absolutely, I can't agree with you more. Like, there's something really wrong about Vitality at the moment. But moving on to another team that went down in the last place of the group stage, the Bricks went down in last place, 0-2. They're losing the elimination match to Rogue, which this is a bit more of an easier pill to swallow, because I do think that when you take a look at the Group B standings and who was actually in that group, I do think that probably the Bricks were probably the worst team out of that group, unfortunately. Not saying much about where they stand in terms of the in terms of the like regional stage, but like Frontline, Cloud9, Rogue a bit more shaky, but considering where they stand as well throughout the course of the group, throughout the course of this particular tournament, I think that hindsight certainly is 50-50 for the Bricks, and it does look like that they were the worst team of the group, which again, nothing against the Bricks, obviously. Like, they're still a very good team. I expect good things out of them coming into the next season of RLCS. But this was always going to be a tough time for them. And for that reason, I can accept this result a little bit more than I can accept the Vitality result.
Yeah, we always knew coming in, looking at the Group B, that it was probably going to be Rogue and Bricks at bottom two. Just where does that stand? Most people would have expected Cloud9 or Frontline to come out of the top. Naturally, that's what happened. Looking at this right now, though, Bricks weren't playing that well across the entire weekend. Yet you can still see the difference compared to Vitality, for example, because we're going to make the contrast there, aren't we, Jay? Because they're both the two teams that dropped out on day two, technically, because that's when the elimination match was playing, but in the second game. And they played close to their opponents. Near enough every team apart from G2 played crap on the first 2 days, really. But Bricks, even whilst playing bad, still had an air of nearly being able to do it. They took Cloud9 to Game 7 and lost to Rogue when Rogue were looking, again, one of their best in day 2. Rogue are a serious threat now. They are the new EG, for example. They are that benchmark for NA, and pretty much the bottom of the best NA teams, and there's only 4 good ones. We know with EU, you could have thrown in any of the RLCS teams in the EU, and you probably got a very damaging weekend here, and it'd probably have very similar results. But here, Bricks, they did fine. It's just that problem of you've got to have you've got to have a team that drops out from each group, and them drop in here makes sense. If they were to go on through, they would have probably dropped to Cloud9 in the following day,
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up Rogue, actually, because that's my next talking point. Because, like, remember the history of this team, right? They only made it to the semi-finals of RLCS after coming from the very back end of the playoffs in the North American RLCS. So they made it that far on what has essentially been like a hilarious rise to form. And for them, like, I think it's a serious contender for sort of the groundskeepers or the gatekeepers of playoffs for tournaments. That they're almost guaranteed going to go through a group stage somehow, some way, and then from there it's all about how are they gonna who are they going to take out on their way there, who are they going to upset, who are they going to be a threat to, essentially. And for some of these European teams coming in, like a lot of the time they'll be looking at the NRGs and the G2s and the Cloud9s and thinking, how are we going to beat them? When I think honestly, Rogue could be a serious sleeper team that might cause a lot of the instability when it comes to European teams playing on an international sort of scale,
Yeah, they literally fly on the radar. They are stealthy. They are rogues to it all, It's quite fitting for a team.
Fuck you and your puns.
I had to, okay? So looking at this, Rogue, it's all come down to Cronovia building up this team, because you got to remember before there had been the FlyQuest roster and all of that, and they built themselves up they've done it well, and it is all off the back of Crow coming in and having to revitalize himself, having to rejuvenate near enough his whole career, because if this didn't work, he would have probably been out and we'd seen another Marky Doodah situation, But Rogue, they've embraced the experience, and Crow knows the game inside and out. He might not be the best mechanical player around at the moment, but he's got Wonder and AJ who can do some pretty crazy stuff between them, and they've got great chemistry between them. So Cronovi saw come in and has been not only a coach, but just the core to the team where the other two revolve around him. And it is working. Like you said, this is the benchmark for NA at the moment. If you can't beat Rogue, you're not going to be one of the top teams. That's just how it is. But Rogue at the same time are growing. They're getting better. This is probably within every team in Rocket League at the moment, I'm going to say the team with the best sort of like growth rate. If you were to mark out how they're growing on a chart, they would have the best like percentage increase, whatever. And looking at them, like you said, next season, this could be a threat. This could be a team that could be punching for Worlds. And everyone's going to sleep on them until that point because Wonder and AJ, you don't think of having the same name. Like you got Cronovian Mountain, but everyone just does that as like an old school OG joke. They don't have the same names as your sort of Chicago JNAPs or Little NRG. You've got Turbo there now, of course, and that's going to be a big stand point. But of course, Justin and Garrett are crazy, and then of course Cloud9 is Cloud9. So Rogue is naturally going to be in their shadow the entire way. And the fact is, the players don't really care. They're not players like you look at Wonder and AJ. AJ seemed to be near enough asleep on a sleeping bag, throughout the entirety. It was a beanbag, sorry, throughout the whole of it. They don't care. They don't care about the limelight. They just want to play and do well in tournaments. And they've got a good mentality for it.
Yeah, exactly. That mentality is the kind of thing that's like, right, we're going to play our own game against you, and you haven't prepared for us, therefore you're not going to be prepared for our game. And as a result, we're going to win. And I think that's kind of what happened with the case of, in the case of the Bricks, where they were prepared for Cloud9. They brought Cloud9 to the finish line, and then they weren't quite as prepared for Rogue. Rogue were forcing a lot of mistakes. They were getting up in the face of the Bricks during their series in the group stage. Yep. Like it was very reminiscent of a team that just weren't ready for Rogue. And as you say, teams are going to sleep on these guys until eventually someone figures out, actually, we do need to prepare for them because they're fucking wrecking us. They're fucking wrecking a lot of the teams that could be considered as also underdogs or also dark horses. And again, they will be the gatekeepers of playoffs in tournaments like this one and like the World Championship. Maybe not so much in the case of the Dream Hacks where you've got 32 teams competing and it's just like, holy fuck, how the hell do you even make it through day one, let alone day two at that stage? But Rogue's going to be a team to keep out for, keep an eye out for
the
certain,
example there, Jay, is Rogue probably came into this. They knew Bricks were going to be their biggest rivals and who they have to take down. And then they probably did a lot of research on Cloud9 because they already had the scrims against them and already had played against them. So that's the example. Day one, Rogue lost 4-0 to Frontline. It was a bit of a battering. We're going to say that right now.
It was.
But come down to the seed decider, where Rogue and Frontline already before, that went the whole way to Game 7. And that came down to Rogue having adjusted, having learned their opponents from that one series against them, from those 4 games, and clearing up a lot of their mistakes. Again, they didn't win, but going from 4-0 to 4-3 is a massive difference. Rogue, like I said, by the end of next season, by Worlds, which I do expect them to get to, this could be a team that's super scary because they've learned and they've got A pluses already all the way across the board. They're just that close to getting the A star.
Yeah, and I don't keep track of a lot of North American teams. I only keep track of like the top 3, but Rogue is now going to be back on that list for me. I think I'm going to be keeping my eyes on how well they'll do over the course of the next few tournaments because they are legit right now. They are actually legit. A team that's also proven that they're pretty legit as well as Dignitas, unexpectedly making it into the playoffs above Runner Vitality. I think that much is probably going to be a pretty unexpected result. But as well as that, making a run in the playoffs themselves. Remember, they came in from the lower bracket. They eliminated G2 pretty dominantly. They took Cloud9 to the line and surpassed them in the end to only get eliminated by Frontline and take a top 3 finish, which is it's been a while for Dignitas in this case. We weren't 100% confident on Astral coming into this one, but we weren't 100% confident about Dignitas and where they currently stand at the moment. And I guess that's the first thing I want to focus on when it comes to this team. Astral, is he finally fitting in now? Is he looking like a good sort of like part of the unit? Yes, he is. Okay, glad that you agree.
So yeah, when we looked at this before, you got to think he had a very quick turnaround, like for Valencia in that way. He had to just get accustomed to his team. So now we've had a couple of weeks. He's basically had a month with this roster and is starting to show the fruits. Like we had it there where, don't get me wrong, I saw a lot of people over on like different Discords and that making fun of like the statement from Violent Panda that Ash was the best mechanical player, if not the definitely top 3 in the world. Not incredibly sure about that per se. Just because of how his play styles might make it seem a little bit more beefier than what it is, because he is a grade A ball chaser, maybe even grade S, if you're going on the 6-man's rankings and how fighting games do it. But that's not bad. Having that aspect to the team does work because Violent Panda and Yuko definitely don't do that. It seems like it's a common factor of Rocket League now where you have to have, every team has to have a ball chaser on it. Turbo, they were always continuously, this weekend, Turbo's going on about how, Justin, I don't care what you're doing, but you've got to chase that ball. That's all I want you doing, because then it gives him and Garrett a lot of room to sort of work and they can play off of that. Because naturally, yes, they don't exactly know what the end result is going to be from that ball chasing, but nor does the opponents. And they're the one that's getting interrupted and intercepted, which when they've got the boost because they're hanging back and watching from a bit more of a distance and are defending, you've got the upper hand there. But Astral coming through, you can start to see he's getting a lot more comfortable. And Dig coming into this, you looked at Group A and thought, right, Dig are getting instant drop. No matter how, even if they fix their problems, G2 are on good form, NRG are on good form, and Vitality, we were expecting them to be on good form because it's Vitality, but no. Dignitas coming through, don't get me wrong, third in that group, but just through the weekend, they were just building it up. They'd gone away, done their research, of course, and worked a little bit, because when they came after losing, you've got to think, against G2 on the second day 4-2, they were able to come through in that lower bracket and beat G2 4-1 both sides, and then taking down Cloud9, which was the crazy one here, because this should have been really where they stopped, and taking Cloud9 to game 7. Cloud9 just looked deflated towards the end of that game, just because it could not work. They couldn't play their own style. Dig are looking scary. Their only problem is frontline. They just could not figure them out. And apparent talks of scrims and that seems like it's still the same problem. Frontline are Dig's bogey team still, which...
Well, I mean, I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit, because it feels like Dignitas right now, they're having a great time against international squads, but domestically in the European scene, it's not quite working out for them. I mean, we still haven't yet to see a good pool of results with Astral being in the fold. Obviously, we still yet to see the new season of RLCS come to fruition. But you take a look at what they had to do here. They only beat one European team, that being Renault Vitality, and the other teams that they managed to go up against, obviously being the likes of G2, who they eliminated, Cloud9, who they eliminated. They didn't have a great performance in the group stage against NRG, but 2 eliminations against 2 pretty fucking good teams in North America. That's pretty toppers for Dignitas. That's a pretty good result, I'd say.
Oh yeah, Dignitas basically the only team, like the problem team for them come out here from EU, of course, was naturally Frontline, but this is because within EU, of course, they're naturally always scrimming each other. So Frontline knows how Dignitas wants to play, and Dignitas knows how Frontline wants to play. The problem is their Frontline just has more chemistry with each other, and they've got very similar play styles at the moment, and Frontline are just that little bit faster. They've got that Chorset factor with a lot of skill there. Essentially, Chorset, you can... near enough swap in with how Astral wants to play. The problem is they have Ferrer, who is more aggressive and getting in those bumps. And it's very similar, but Frontline just have it locked down a little bit. There's a little bit of change that needs to come into Dig, and that's largely going to be, I reckon anyway, to how Yukio has to play a little bit. But Dignitas next season is going to be gunning for a top 4 spot. Definitely. Like, you look at, of course, naturally all the teams that are coming into next season. You've got Barca, Solomir, Complexity, Dig, Frontline, Bricks, Vitality, and now Veloce moving on through because the whole Triple Trouble issue. But here, Dig's going to be putting on a good, solid, statement for how they're going. Like, Barca, we reckon, both of us, don't we, Joe, really, that they're probably not going to have such a good season. Like, it doesn't feel like it should work as much, but that's because everyone else has really picked up their game coming into this season, and Dig, it's finally starting to work for them.
Indeed it is, and again, another team I'm going to be keeping my eyes on going into the next season, just because of how legit they really could look at the moment. I'm quite excited, Bacon. I've got my hopes held high. I've got my hopes high on this one. So yeah, good luck, Dignitas. Let's see if you can maintain that. Whether this is not just a flash in the pan performance, and let's see if you can continue to improve on the foundation you've finally built. Now, let's move on to the big 2 boys. Frontline. Doesn't matter if they aren't supported by Paris Saint-Germain. They are the big boys that came out for another grand final finish And this just, again, continues to build on what was essentially the best PSG we'd ever seen. You know, these guys are looking amazing. Chaussette has come into career best form, right? He is a fucking god when it comes down to scoring some of those goals. He's got... I remember back in 2017 when Rival Esports were covering the RLCS Open qualifiers, we got to see Frontline for the first ever time. And we were just like... These guys are fucking legit, like, you know, and we got to see a glimpse of what Chaussette could really do mechanically. And I remember that special moment. There's a special moment that you casted, Bacon, where he dribbled the ball past 3 different players and scored a goal. And you know that moment. I know you know that moment because the call from you was fucking perfect. And we haven't seen that sort of style of mechanics from him ever since that point. I don't think, you know, he showed signs of it during the RLCS for that first season, but for this tournament and for Valencia as well, you know, he has found that same mechanical style and form and finesse, and he's just putting it to use every single time. Constant shots, constant incredible plays. He is almost carrying the team almost, and with Ferro also coming into the fold and being a great supportive element, like it's just looking so good. It's looking so fucking good right now from this team.
Well, it's the big change up in basically how they're playing. Like I was saying earlier, the biggest thing here is that Ferrer has actually stepped it up. He is finally a solid member of this team. He is worthy to be, at the time anyway, using the, you know, holding the badge that is PSG. Beforehand, I thought they should really be changing up. You know, we're talking, right, you've either got to get boot camping and get something working, or there's going to be a roster swap. And the big key thing is Ferrer's stepped up, been a lot more aggressive. Like, you know, the whole weekend they were saying, oh, he's like a plane, essentially, you know, just bombing through and you can't stop the lad. And that's a big factor to the playstyle. By him taking up what is essentially a tank role, it allows Chaussette to run that DPS. I'm using, you know, the good old MMO terms, but it works. Chaussette can do so much damage because Ferrer is taking all the attention, getting right up in your grill, and you can't do anything. The big strange thing here is Fruity has then just gone into a support role. Again, sticking with the MMO name, but he is just everywhere and able. Like, Fruity's less sort of seen. He's almost quiet, but the work he's doing is still important.
Yeah.
And he's just basically making sure that any gap that is left between his two teammates, he can just patch up and then feed back to Ferrer, who starts that initial issue, and then Chaussette just slips on in and he causes massive damage. It is a team that has got so much consistency, again, from how they're playing at the moment, that if they don't go on and make it top 2 in this current coming RLCS, I would be massively surprised as it is, because they seem to be the only team with consistency, and again with the whole silly season of roster swaps, they're the ones that have stuck together, so they should come out on top. But Frontline, they've got that little bit of magic to them quite now, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm excited to see what they can do. You know, again, like, they've had 2 great performances, 2 grand final finishes in 2 Rocket League majors, which I don't think has been done before. I don't think. Maybe Dignitas did it back in the day. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's certainly not something that's very common in Rocket League. That much I can say for almost certainty. So, yeah, good shit from Frontline and good shit from NRG as well, who seem to be the new rivals from the North American versus EU war, as we like to perpetuate here on the show. They actually were the winners, you know. Although Frontline are looking fantastic, NRG were the overall champions, beating out Frontline in the grand finals again. They beat them in the upper finals to get the series advantage, the bracket reset advantage, and now they stand at 4-3 in the first series, where they had defeated Frontline and won the championship. Which is also their first victory as a brand since the Face It X Games in 2017, which technically could not be considered for the same lineup because Garrett G is the only surviving member from that lineup, but it certainly has been a long time coming for him and for NRG as well. They've always had second place finishes, third place finishes, and they've always had they've always been like great online and great in the North American scene, but Fireburner, last hurrah in Valencia, Turbo Pulsar coming in and building upon what NRG had, and his first tournament outing with them, they fucking smashed it out of the park. This is such a big feels good, man.
Yeah, and this is it the turbo factor, Jay? Like, we've seen this, of course, with
I think it is.
Such,
I think it is.
And him, it's got to be the turbo factor of what he can come in, like, looking at the interviews, and definitely this whole situation, the whole Beyond the Summit, one big thing is players are a lot more comfortable. So their interviews were so much better than at RLCS, where they all get stiff and it's just generic, like, oh, what were your strats? How do you beat them? And just at RLCS, oh, we just play better, we play a little faster. At Beyond the Summit, they were generally given better explanations. And Turbo was just, again, saying, Justin, you've got to close them down. You've got to make sure that they're constantly feeling this pressure, because that is how you beat Frontline at the moment, is you just outplay them, essentially. Again, bit of a generic one. And again, that comes down. Frontlines change up. You used to be able to quite easily beat them because they're very much a reserved defensive team. But now that they're throwing Ferra into attack first, you've got to get rid of Ferra. And Justin's very quick at being able to recover. So he's the best one to send out, essentially, is try and knock out Ferra and get the ball off him. Then Justin can go get boost. And then he's back in to get an attack going, which is crazy. But it all comes down to Turbo, essentially, using his intimate knowledge of the EU scene and bringing that over to an NA side.
Yes.
If we're going to get another NA team beat EU, it is going to be NRG, because Cloud9 have had the chance for it, but they always seem to fall at the last hurdle these days. They definitely look to be the strongest team in NA, Cloud9, but when it comes up against EU, NRG at the moment just have that little bit of extraness. And I'm looking at this going, NRG could then top NA purely because Turbo can look at it from a different perspective and change this team up. And now, like you were questioning, we were talking earlier, do we have to start covering NRG purely
Yes, we
because
do.
it's got an EU
Yes,
player
we
on
do.
it? But
Yes, we
NRG
do.
is most likely going to be the next dominant team just because they're fueling themselves to be able to get to that level.
It's certainly between NRG and Frontline right now, and I think I have to do a little bit of analysis as well. Like back in the day, I did like a little bit of a breakdown video comparing Gale Force versus
on
G2.
the boundary to knock back on that purely because how much Diggers and Org are putting into this team at the moment, where they got the side out to do a lot of scrimming in the actual like dig offices and that the week before. But Digger definitely, they're serious on this and they want to get back to a top 2 team in the EU.
Well,
So
for now,
it's one to watch.
For now, right now, it's definitely between NRG and Frontline. Like they are looking solid right now.
There's
And
a nice rivalry.
I wouldn't even be surprised if the Montreal LAN ended with an NRG Frontline grand final. Like
Hopefully it does.
for legit, like just add. I think
Best
that
of
Montreal is going to be a great sort of separating event to decide who's going to be the top team compared to the from these two teams when you compare them head to head. Because let's think about this: they've had 2 very similar placings in 2 very similar lands, with Frontline taking 1 championship, NRG taking another. There are some caveat points that favour Frontline because NRG did make a roster change where Frontline did not. But arguably, NRG are looking like the stronger team as a result of that roster change. So Montreal's coming up. That's going to be the deciding event, I think. And you know, for the time being, like this rivalry is going to, I think, spice up in the off season, and could well spice up during the season when we go to the World Championships if they keep their form for that long. For now, though, like these 2 teams are looking great, and yes, we are definitely going to have to start covering North American in NRG's performance. We're gonna have to call it the NRG segment, I think, of the fucking show, or at least that which we can talk about, because you know, obviously, like you know, they're only gonna have a couple matches a week, but regardless,
I'm saying the extent we can do is RLCS in North America. That is the most we'd ever push to this coming season.
I mean, you know, unless we opened up a North American show, you know, like as we might do. Apparently, no, we're not going to do a fucking North American show.
We'd need 2 other like host casters to come on and actually take the grunt of that because.
Oi, Dazarin, you interested? And with that, we're going to end off the show for this week of RLAfterShock. Oh man, I have to say, I have been quite surprised with what's come out of Rocket League this week, especially Beyond the Summit. Yep. It's such a good event. And again, with the news coming out from RLCS, with everything happening behind the scenes as well, we have to do another roster update, Bacon. We have to do another rumor roundup because we are starting to get some information behind the scenes of some of the stuff that could be coming forward before we hit the play-in stage. So definitely want to keep our eyes on that stuff, and I definitely want to keep you updated as well. So again, be sure to follow the Twitters and such. Go on, Bacon.
On that note, Trials this coming week, and of course that's going to be the best one because teams are naturally going to be doing that because I think they've got... When is roster lock? I want to say that's mid next week. So they've got both this Thursday and Sunday to essentially try out before they have to lock in their rosters. So you could get a couple of glimpses there because naturally we've only got 2 teams confirmed into RLRS next season. We know our RLCS teams. We just don't know anyone else that. We don't even, actually, saying that, RLRS, ARG are confirmed, but Method don't have a solid third yet.
True that. So there's still plenty to talk about, still plenty to look forward to, of course, over the next couple of weeks of Rocket League action. There's a good chance there might not be a show next week, at least with you, Bacon. But he's going on holiday, basically. And there most definitely won't be a show on Monday either, because...
unless I might be able to do Thursday next week. It comes down, like basically Monday comes down to us with Insomnia, doesn't it?
Yep.
And then Wednesday I'm going into London to see QPR versus Portsmouth.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though, right? If you wanted to take a little bit extra out, you could literally just swing around here, and we could do a show live in my fucking place. We did a show live in your room. Now we can do a show live in my room. I think that makes the most amount of sense. But we will.
I'm just scared you'll lock me in the basement. That's it.
I don't have a basement, Bacon. This is the basement, and this is. Well, actually, this isn't even a fucking basement. This is a shithole. Anyways, right, we're gonna get off your screens, get out of your ears, and head off for another week. Again, keep your eyes locked to the social medias at RLAfterShock to keep updated with next week's live show to see whether there will actually be one, whether or not Bacon will be appearing in that one next weekend. Again, we have a plan in place, but it all comes up to certain other people whether that plan can come in. So you want to keep your eye locked up to the Twitter. Again, it's !Twitter in the Twitch chat. If you are interested, again, other than that, it's RLAfterShock on Twitter. Also, be sure to follow the Twitch page, twitch.tv/RLAftershock for the live edition of the show. And also, if you are listening to the... if you're listening, of course, that's for people who are listening to the audio versions, watching the video version on YouTube. If you do want to catch up with the show and all of its archives, then you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/TheEternalJ, plus our listings, of course, across the audio world in Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, TuneIn, and Anchor.fm/RLAftershock, where we host the show and where all of the local listings can be found. Bacon, any final words for today's show?
Insomnia this weekend. If you're there, like Sunday, we're pretty much free.
Twitch?
You're not, of course.
No,
because,
I'm not.
CS, but Rocket League stuff, it's just Friday, Saturday. So Sunday, let's do like a little meetup. I can't wait to see a lot of players there, so that'd be good fun. And Jay might find a break somewhere. Who knows?
Somewhere, maybe, I don't know. But if you are not going to be there, then you could, of
course...
course...
out and open it up.
If you are not going to be there at Insomnia, then you can tune in and watch us cast some Rocket League. You can also watch us do the other games as well over the course of on Twitch, of course, twitch.tv/IGFmasters and twitch.tv/BelongArenas. So you can keep up to date with all the action on the stage and, of course, on the floor at the BYOC. Again, me and Bacon will be tweeting sporadically of when we're going to be going live. Again, I'll be doing Counter-Strike and doing Rocket League, of course, with Bacon at the same time. So we're going to be very busy that weekend, but we will be able to make some time for you if you're going to be down there. But until that point, we're going to see you back here, back there, and back wherever for even more of the Aftershock. Take care.